Let's talk respectability politics. And yes, exceptional Negroes. I'm talking to you.
Now the time for talking is over. Cause I told ya, taking it over. See, I told ya.
Hey y'all, it's Verda. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, welcome to the tribe. We are so happy to have you. If you are returning to Fiercely V, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about something that has been on my mind heavy since the riots and the protests and things have started because of the video recorded death of George Floyd. So over the last several weeks, we've definitely seen quite a few demonstrations, whether they were peaceful, whether they turned into riots. We've seen them as a response to Black people basically just being fed up of the discrimination, the murder, the abuse, and everything that we've had to deal with as Black people in the American society. People are mad, people are in the streets, they're protesting, they're using their voices to fight against racism. And in addition to fighting against just regular old institutionalized racism, we're also fighting against police brutality because for some reason the police have been given free reign to kill Black people in the streets on camera, however, whenever, in front of whomever, and not receive any type of consequence for it. So we have people taken to the streets to fight against that as well. So while people are out in the streets fighting against institutionalized racism and police brutality, you have another segment of Black people that is condemning those people. And the basis of their condemnation is that if you guys are out there acting up and acting aggressively and destroying things and looting and burning things, etc., that's why they feel the way they feel about us. That's why they feel like they can kill us with no consequence. That's why they're dehumanizing us. And I want to make it very clear in this video that that is very false. It's very dangerous, and we need to make sure that we stop spreading that narrative. It harms us. It is harmful to Black people. So to start, let's talk about the definition of respectability. So the basic definition of respectability is the state or quality of being proper, correct, and socially acceptable. So now let's talk about respectability politics. Now, respectability politics is similar to the basic definition of respectability, but it has more to do with how a certain group moves through society. So respectability politics is the set of beliefs holding that conformity to socially acceptable or mainstream standards of appearance and behavior will protect a member of a marginalized or minority group from prejudices and systemic injustices. And so basically that's saying that as it pertains to the Black community, it's the idea that if Black people are more respectable in the eyes of society, if we conform to certain standards that white people have set as right or proper, then we will appear more human to them. We will appear more worthy of basic rights. And hopefully you can understand how awful that concept is, to think that in order for us as human beings to even be worthy of basic rights and life, we have to conform to some kind of standard that they have set. That is false. We are worthy of basic rights and life because we are human beings. And we don't have to be any particular type of Black person in order for that to be true. But respectability politics says that we have to conform, we have to be the way they want us to be in order to be deserving of that. And a lot of the rhetoric that we preach and spout, it aligns with that idea. And that is so dangerous. We cannot keep repeating rhetoric that is rooted in respectability politics, because then now we're part of the problem. Now we're part of the people saying that only certain exceptional Negroes deserve to live and deserve certain rights. So again, you guys, we've seen a lot of protests. Some of them have been more peaceful, but some of them have turned violent. One of the initial protests, which actually took place in Minnesota, which is where George Floyd was actually murdered, that protest turned increasingly violent. Lots of things were set on fire, including a police station. There was a lot of looting going on. You have all these things going on, and you have people that have taken to the interwebs, as they often do, to say, hey, you guys, this is not the way. You don't need to be looting stores like this. This is gonna make people, this is why people think the way they think about us. And this is coming from Black people. This is Black people saying that, hey, you guys behaving like this is why people think the way they think about us. And you even have people like Trina going as far as to compare Black people looting to animals at the zoo. They need to be locked up in cages. And, I'm not going to insert that stupid ass clip of hers because the shit was dumb. But I did insert it in my last episode of But I Digress. So if you have not seen that, go check it out. But yeah, you have people saying things like that. And what I want to make clear about statements like that is that they're just simply not true. Us looting is not the reason why people think the way they think about us. People have thought, white people have felt the way they have felt about us since they brought us over here to build their country as slaves. We didn't have to do anything to make them think what they already think about us. We didn't cause this. The rage and anger that Black people feel at this point in this country is completely justified. And that's just that on that. And y'all are gonna have to get used to that. I know that we have been force-fed Martin Luther King, peaceful, turn the other cheek constantly. But what I need you guys to understand is that that's something that's been fed to us as Black people. It's not fed to other groups. When 9/11 happened, we didn't go over to the Middle East to peacefully fight against terrorism. We went over there shit up and dropping bombs on people because we were angry, rightfully so, at the destruction and the terror that they had caused on us. So we went over there and we fought back. Black people have been the victims of destruction and terror in this country since they brought our asses over here to build it. So you can't tell Black people that they don't have a right to be upset and to show that anger by whatever that means, whether that means looting a Target, whether that means burning some shit down. Now, I'm not saying people go burn shit down, okay? Disclaimer, I'm not telling y'all to go burn nothing down. But what I'm saying is the amount of racism, abuse, injustice, terror that Black people have been a victim to in this country for centuries and centuries, there is a reason that they have reached the level of anger that caused them to take to the streets and do what they did. And we cannot sit here and say they're not justified, because when you add up all these things from slavery to now, that anger is justified anger. And that is just what it is. Now, I want to talk about Atlanta because this has been a big topic of conversation. Now, for years, Atlanta has been labeled as this mecca for Black people. It's been coined the Black Hollywood, and it's a place where wealth and accomplishment of Black people is a lot more significant than in some other places in the United States. And When the protesting made its way to Atlanta, there was some looting that happened at the Lenox Mall, I believe. And as a result of that, there was a press conference held, and it was Keisha Lance Bottoms and T.I. and Killer Mike. And they held this press conference. And in the press conference, they basically just yelled and scolded at the black people that were looting and rioting. And Keisha Lance Bottoms was, she was in that, black woman ain't taking no shit mode, and y'all need to be ashamed of yourself, cutting up in front of these white folks and this and that. That's the vibe she was giving off in her speech.
What I see happening on the streets of Atlanta is not Atlanta. This is not a protest. This is not in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr. This is chaos. When Dr. King was assassinated, we didn't do this to our city, where more than 50% of the business owners in Metro Atlanta are minority business owners. And you're not protesting anything running out with brown liquor in your hands, breaking windows in this city. T.I. and Killer Mike own half the West Side. So when you burn down this city, you're burning down our community.
And then you had T.I. come and insert, Atlanta, you get discriminated against everywhere else, but not Atlanta. Atlanta's not like these other places. Atlanta don't deserve this. This is our Wakanda. That's what he called it. He called it Wakanda. And the interesting thing about that is, when I watched the clip from that press conference, what I saw was a group of rich ass people in Atlanta scolding poor ass people in Atlanta for fighting against institutionalized racism and police brutality. You had a group of people whose wealth has protected them from what the poor people have to experience in Atlanta. So when T.I. stands up in a press conference and he calls Atlanta Wakanda and says that the discrimination that's in other places is not here in Atlanta, he's speaking from the perspective of someone who is rich, who has a level of wealth and notoriety and influence that protects him from those things. So he doesn't experience them. Not because it doesn't exist in Atlanta, because you have been shielded from that because of your wealth, because of your influence, because of your notoriety, because of your celebrity. And that is respectability politics through and through. It's these rich, affluent, wealthy, accomplished black people who are refusing to acknowledge that there is a privilege that they have in being rich, wealthy, and affluent. Telling people who are not rich, wealthy, and affluent, if you behave like me, they won't treat you like a black person. And that is so dangerous, you guys. It's so dangerous because it's a separation. It's, you have these wealthy, affluent, educated black people who have a right to not be abused. And then you have these other black people that, they're not wealthy, they're not rich, they're not affluent, and they don't know how to act. So that's why they're getting abused. And it's like you're justifying it. You're justifying the abuse against them because if they would just be like you, if they would just be respectable like you have been, then maybe they wouldn't get abused, when the reality is they shouldn't have to be anything to not get abused. Just the fact that they are human beings should be enough. And when we continue that narrative as black people, we're justifying the abuse that certain segments of our population receive, and it's not right. It's not right. That's just that on that. Let's talk about Atlanta as a city, okay? There was statistics came out in late 2018 that made Atlanta the number one city in the United States for income inequality. The number one city. Now, there's a lot of cities in the United States, and Atlanta is number one when it comes to income inequality. So let's break that down. In Atlanta, Georgia, 24% of the people that live there live below the poverty line. 24% of people in Atlanta, Georgia. That's 1 in 4 people in Atlanta, Georgia live below the poverty line. In Atlanta, Georgia, 18% of the population make upwards of $150K a year, whereas 9.3% make under $10,000 a year. Okay? $10,000 a year, you guys. This is extreme poverty. In order to be within the 1% earners in Atlanta, Georgia, you have to make over $300,000 a year. And now in Keisha Lansbottom's speech, she mentions that, you guys destroyed the West End, and T.I. and Killer Mike own half the West End. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that these two gentlemen are probably within that 1%. And maybe Keisha too. I don't know. But when you have that level of income inequality within the city, and then you have someone who owns half the West Side telling people who live at the poverty line or earn under 10K a year, telling them this is Wakanda, for who? It's Wakanda for you. It ain't Wakanda for the people that are out there rioting and protesting. But when you're talking respectability, you have these wealthy people who have amassed a certain level of wealth that shields them from things, and they're like, okay, now everybody just needs to do this. But that's not how it should be. Black people should not have to amass wealth or get highly educated or, be respectable in the eyes of white people in order to have value as human beings and have the basic rights to live. Now, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. I have worked in recruiting and HR for most of my post-college career. So I definitely fit within the box of, the exceptional Negro. And that's something that I had to understand. I had to understand that there was a certain way that non-Black people viewed me, that they wouldn't view me that same way if I wasn't college educated, if I didn't work in the, in the certain industry that I work in. There's a certain way that they're going to treat you because there are certain things that they think this makes this Black person more valuable. And I had to understand that as a Black person who fits within that category, that there are people who are getting, there are people that I'm interacting with that are interacting with other Black people in a completely different way because they have determined, okay, this is one of the exceptional ones. This is one of the ones that we should treat well. This is one of the good ones. This is one of the ones we should treat a little bit better. And that isn't right. We can't keep perpetuating that narrative. We can't keep spreading that narrative around. It's dangerous. And it's dangerous mostly because white people use this exact mindset and idea to dehumanize us and to make it okay to kill us. Recently, Candace Owens decided to go on a tirade against George Floyd, and I'm not going to play her ignorant ass clip here, but she went on a tirade where she basically decided to research George Floyd's entire criminal history. Apparently, according to her, as soon as she saw the video of him being murdered, the very first thing she decided to do was go look up his criminal history, because that's not racist as excuse my language. But she decided to go on this huge tirade, going on and on about his entire criminal history. And the thing about it is, why is she doing this? I'll tell you why she's doing this. Because as a Black person, your life is not valuable because you're a human being. It's only valuable under certain conditions. And if you're a criminal, you deserve to die. That's the narrative that's being pushed. When you have Candace Owens out here reciting the entire criminal history of a man who was murdered by police when he was absolutely and completely unarmed and nonviolent and non-threatening and had a knee in his neck for 8+ minutes, whatever his criminal history was doesn't matter, because his criminal history is not why he was murdered that day. But you have people that will look at that and say, oh, okay, well, he deserved to die. And all the white people that are sharing Candace Owens' bullshit ass clip, that's what they're thinking at this point. And when this goes to trial, this is what's going to be in the brain of the jury and the judge and the people that have to determine if these men are going to be punished appropriately. So when we are spreading that narrative that only certain, exceptional Negroes deserve the basic human rights, that's the kind of narrative that we are perpetuating. This is the kind of energy that we are feeding into. And we see this every time a situation comes up where an unarmed Black person is killed. We see it in news articles. We see the different pictures they use. With Trayvon Martin, they were circulating this picture of him with a hoodie on and, they found the toughest looking picture of him that they could find to circulate in all these news articles, because that's part of the programming. Okay, this wasn't a respectable Negro. This was a thug. And that's the terminology that they use to describe him. And that's how they dehumanize him. And that's how his killer was able to walk free. You've seen the same thing recently with Mike Brown. They drove at this idea that he robbed the store before this happened. Because if they can put it in your mind that, this is not a respectable Negro, this is a Negro that robs stores, he deserved to die. And that's what's in the minds of the judge. And that's what's in the minds of the jury. And that's what's in the minds of all the white people watching. And some of the Black people too. And that's how this narrative spreads. You've seen it with Botham Jean, who was sitting in his home, chilling, when Amber Geiger walked in and murdered him. And they immediately started spreading the narrative of, we found weed in his house. Why did you even search his house? A man sitting on his couch is murdered and you decide to search his home? Why? Why did you even search his home? Because you're looking for something. You're looking for something to say he deserved to die. Look, he had weed. He deserved to die. Clearly, he wasn't an exceptional Negro because he was on some weed. He deserved to die. We have to understand what the things that we say and the things that we do, what it's feeding into. Racism in America is deep-rooted. And it's so deep-rooted that it's deep-rooted in us too. Because this is centuries of conditioning that we're fighting against. There's a lot that we have to unlearn, and there's a lot that we cannot continue to perpetuate. And respectability is just one of those things, y'all. We cannot continue making it to where only certain exceptional Negroes deserve basic human rights. Black people, if you just conduct yourself respectably, if you just don't wear your pants sagging, if you just don't wear hoodies, if you just don't wear bonnets in the grocery store, they'll respect us then. The things that y'all are doing, that's the reason why they don't respect us. No, that's not the truth. They haven't respected us from the moment they brought us over here to build their country. That is within them. So, you guys, I do have the clip of Keisha, T.I., and Killer Mike at their press conference in my last episode of But I Digress. If you have not checked that out, make sure you do that. And while you're there, you can check out the other episodes of But I Digress that I've posted as well. There will be a new episode of But I Digress coming out this Saturday, so make sure that you tune in. If you still have not liked this video, you tripping. Go ahead and like this video. Again, you guys, liking the video lets the YouTube algorithm know that you guys are rocking with Fiercely V, and it gets the video out in front of more people so that our tribe can grow and grow and grow. If you have not subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. We have fun over here at Fiercely V, and you want to be a part of this, okay? You know you do. So just hit the button. I don't know why y'all be playing like this. Anyways, I hope that you guys understood what I was trying to say in this video. I get a little passionate about this stuff sometimes, but hopefully my point came across. Definitely get in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this topic. Let me know what your thoughts are on this matter. And if nothing else, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.